It's amazing for me because how I started horticulture, my father got very sick and we went down the natural route with him. So I went to all this training courses and just all about food and what you eat and what you put into your body. That's how I started. So I went to train organic horticulture. So that's how I built up. And then throughout that process, I just found, oh yeah, I really like this. Like it's amazing. Nature is just amazing. And then I went to work in a youth centre and I set up community gardens in the inner city. And the same thing, the children, we used to do seed to play, and they were like, I thought lettuce came from supermarkets and stuff, and they seen how it actually grow it. But out here in the garden, it's just amazing. Like you're deadheading the roses, and you look and you see, oh, there's too much pollen in that, leave it for the bees, or there's a ladybird now. It's just, it's just amazing, like seeing all the different things. And you could be digging up, and next of all, you see an ant's nest. And you'll see them running with the bags on their shot, and how quick they get back in. Nature's just amazing. Like you just learn something new here every day, and I just love it. I love it. It's a bonus. Like it's, and the community have got to know they love the gardens. And even with COVID, it was the only place they had to go because they were basically in their houses, and they had the grounds were open for them, and you were like, oh, thank God that we have this, because it's our headspace, and because they're so lovely kept and clean, they really, really enjoyed it. And they are asking questions. Why are you putting the wildlife pond in? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? So you share that with them, and you kind of say to them, it's so easy to put it out your back. You dig a hole and try and get stuff into your back. So it's like sharing the information. The gardens are, there's a lot of everything going on here. In the back we have the kind of like the forest walk. We have the graveyard, we have the rose garden, we have the OMI garden, and we have the diamond, and then there's a few bits going on. But my work would be on a daily basis. There's always something to do. The summer would be very much weeding and deadheading and cutting grass and bits of everything, still planting in stuff, summer bulbs. Pruning bits and pieces, and then it's all different seasons. The winter will be more about cutting back stuff and replanting bulbs or separating bulbs, digging out the bulbs to separate them, and then getting stuff ready to replant. And then the spring will be all prep. It'd be prep for summer. And and then when spring comes, it's just full on, there's growth and there's weeds. So it's just keeping on top of everything, and it's very rewarding, it's just because there's constantly something different to do all the time. Well, it means a lot to me because, with climate change and things that's changing all over the world, and that it's very important to bring creation into the garden and to look after what we have in nature, our plants and our animals and stuff like that. So by putting by not using our pesticides and that in our gardens, we keep the bees and the insects, and every insect, animal, whatever it is, it has a purpose. And so we try and keep it as organically as possible. And so we're trying to bring things into the garden over the past 6 years, bring things over the garden to bring more wildlife into the garden. We've brought in bees, so we have 5 hives on the ground now. And you could see over the last few weeks the bees were multiplying, and we couldn't even cut the grass because the clover was just full of bees. So it's and then we've put in mini ponds as well, so it's giving the bees a drink, and it's creating more stuff. I'd like to get more dragonflies into the garden and bits and pieces. And then in relation to recycling and stuff, we take the food waste from the kitchen in the house, the vegetable waste, which is quite heavy, in the bin. So we take it and we break it down. We make up a bed, and we have tiger worms in there. So they break it all down. So the compost that we have from there, I'll show you later, is magnificent food for the plants. We don't really buy in feed here. We try to do everything ourselves. We make a nettle feed and stuff like that. But it's all about trying to use what's in the garden, like the nettles and stuff. We use it and we make a feed. We have a local tree surgeon that brings in bark, and it kind of suppresses some of the weeds, but it also breaks down and it gives nutrition to the soil. we just try to keep building the soil up to an organic purpose. So therefore things flourish without loads of feeds that's coming from air miles and stuff like that, you know. So yeah, and then any waste that we take down, we take the newspapers from the house, and we recycle them as well, and we break them down in the compost. The same things, the stuff that we take out from the garden and the leaves that come off the trees, we do a tree system turn, break that down, and that goes back into the soil. So we just try to reduce waste, and anything that we can use in the garden to put back into the garden is the aim here. So down the back we over the past 2 years we're starting an orchard, a kind of like a mini orchard, wildlife garden / so we have a wildlife garden down there, and then we have some gooseberry bushes and raspberry bushes as well. There's a lot of raspberries in the back, and then we have some fruit trees, a pear tree, an apple tree. Now they're in their second year, so they are producing small fruit, but they're still in the growing stages. So that's the plan, to have that there. And the children from the school, they love to see it, and we try, and when they're out, just to give them a little talk and trying the importance of like the apples, and they're asking questions. And so and then there's somebody that has a little vegetable patch at the back, that he has a little thing going with the kids, the children in the school, trying to teach them the importance of basically seed to plate, you know what I mean? And I grow stuff from seed as well. And another thing as well, saving the seeds. I save a lot of the seeds and just put them in a crate and give them to an environmental group. So that it's waste, it's not waste, it's going and it's sharing all over the community. They're going to have a few seeds that, you know, it's safe from buying them, and they're organically grown. You know, pre-COVID, we used to have the children out, we take the worms out. We take the worm, I'll show you the wormery and you'll know what I mean. Full of worms, I mean. And we used to put them in piles, and the children would pick them out. And then, when I was making the wormery, you make it up with a bed with leaves, and I would have a class out and explain to them exactly what the worms were doing. And they'd take a worm each and they'd name it, and then they'd put it back in, and, you know, it was great, absolutely great. Absolutely. Well, you know, the church is very kind to share the grounds with the community, so it's great when they come in, and they, you know, they just love it. And every day, there's not one day that goes by that somebody doesn't say, oh my God, the gardens are amazing and beautiful. And then if somebody kind of deepers into question, what feed do you use and what that? And I'm like, nothing. Like, I use nettle feed, or, you know, some of the pots at the front there will get a tomato feed, but other than that, it's just manure. Oh yeah, we get a horse manure as well in, so that's another recycling. And we give the roses a feed before they come up of horse manure. Well, it's like, as I said before, it's you know, because you have all your tons of waste that's releasing gases into the air, and it's causing, a lot of it is causing climate change. Air miles, like, you know, the likes of, we grow apples in Ireland, we send them to Holland to get waxed, and they come back. So it's trying to tell people that, like, the more natural stuff, you have a little garden, put a tree in it, put an apple tree in it, put something in it. It's to try and be sustainable in going forward, in being able to look after and feed yourself if anything happens, you know. And it's just, as I say, about reducing the waste, trying to reduce as much waste as you can, you know, saving water, getting rain, you know, barrels. I only got one last week in the front of my house. Through Dublin City Council, it's an environmental group, and we kind of got one at the front of the house to water the tree out the front garden. So that's where we're at with that. But yeah, it's just, you know, trying to encourage people as much, and you know, to try and plant stuff from seed, or to save seeds if possible. Do you know what I mean? It's amazing, like, just watching a little seed. Like, see the sunflowers here, they were a little seed off last year's plants, and they're going to grow. Like, every year we have just huge sunflowers in the garden, and this year be an extra bonus because of Ukraine and stuff like that. So we're having a bit of challenge at the moment, but I'm hoping I get a few will. But yeah, but it's amazing when you see them and they produce loads, or even the big head on them, and that came from one little seed. It's just watching nature is it's just amazing, like, and Yeah, and then, you know, I would very much like using pesticides. You know, if I'm going to spray all these roses now with a rose clear and there's an ant there that's eating an aphid or something like that, they're gone. Yeah. You know, where we use washing up liquid and stuff, and it kind of, or baking soda or something like that. But it's kind of like I would kind of really promote not to use pesticides, you know, organically, and it can be done. You know, and everything doesn't have to be perfect. It's like what I'm saying, I'm trying to create more wildlife around here, and I see something in the ground, I'm like, yeah, that's a nice weed, but a weed is a flower in the wrong place, and I'm like, I leave it there, where others just pull it all out, and you know. And then because here I have a system where, you know, we can't pull everything out every year, clear out all the beds for each season. It's too much work, and it's obviously very expensive. So I try to keep the 3 seasons in the ground at the same time that come up every year. Sometimes it looks a bit cluttered, but then it kind of calms itself out. But it's all food for the animals. Yeah. So this is the wormery I was talking about. So we take the waste from the kitchen, and we make it, and eventually it turns into this. If you can see that, it's gold, pure gold, and this goes into the flower beds. So this will be coming out in the next week or two, and yeah, fell out of that. But we planted these 2 years ago. The apple tree, so you can see it's producing fruit. And then we have the gooseberry bush. We have a gooseberry. And here's the pears. Look, you can see the pears. Yeah, and this is an older apple tree. That produces lovely apples. And this is where we have our wildlife garden. So these seeds were put in earlier on. So it's to try and promote or to encourage biodiversity. And the same with here, these sunflowers, I planted these last year and they're coming up. So I never mentioned earlier on about the bird boxes. So we've, Brother Frank made 5 bird boxes, and we have put them on certain different trees. But this one here, it was only put in early spring, and we have blue tits nesting in them. The other day they were like landing on the tree and going in to feed the babies. So that's another thing for wildlife to that we've brought into the garden here. And just this is our recycling. So this is the waste I was saying that we take from the gardens with leaves and paper and stuff like that, and then it breaks down into this is what we get from it. The same thing, like it just breaks down into that, and then we put it back into the gardens. And then we have a leaf mould here that we save all the leaves from the that come down in the winter off the trees, and we introduce that back into the garden. So this breaks down into, and then it turns into like this. The same thing. Leaf mould. So yeah, and what else have we got? This is a wildlife garden down here, and there was a priest that worked here years ago, Father McGonigal, and he started her off. When I came in here, it was a jungle. Father Scully used to look after, but then he went blind, so I don't think there was anybody looking after the gardens for probably 4 years previous to that, so they were kind of left on their own. Mm-hmm. So the front garden, we did a lot of bindweed, and I think the lads were here and they kind of kept on top of things here. Well, thank you so much for coming out, for taking the time to come out, and thank you to your lovely teacher for bringing you out. Okay, so just does anybody know anything about biodiversity? What it is? Anybody know?
It's about greenery.
Yeah.
And helping trees and bees.
Yeah. So it's about protecting nature and creating more nature into grounds, into our world for climate change, because you know what's happening in the world with the weather, all the different kinds of weather, it's climate change. So us as people, individuals, we need to make things better on our earth where we have to live. So what we're doing is it's like we need bees. Every animal or insect has a purpose. So we need biodiversity is creating and looking after the things that we have rather than destroying them. Okay, and it's trying to bring more nature into our lives and look after nature. So what we're doing in the gardens here, we're trying to put in more trees. Does anybody know why we need trees?
For air.
Yeah?
Oxygen.
Oxygen. So we need trees to breathe, and so many different things. They absorb water in the ground. They help the birds to nest, to create more life. If the birds nest, they make babies and more life. So there's so many benefits. The leaves in the trees, when they come down, they're great nutrition to make compost, like to give food to plants. So we have hives behind the grotto here. So we have 5 hives at the moment, and they're in there busy making honey. So they go around the whole gardens, get all the pollen and the nectar from the flowers, and then they go in there. So this is trying to reproduce food. So basically the ground here is making some food. So that's one thing. Then we have bird boxes in the trees, which Brother Frank did a lovely job. And then we have some birds nesting in them. So we're creating a space for them to make more life. So this is in relation to all biodiversity. Then we've put in little mini ponds. The same thing, we want to attract wildlife, so we want to get in dragonflies, we want to get in anything, ants, anything, because every insect, every piece of nature has a purpose. And we don't want to be spraying like bleachy stuff like pesticides on our flowers and plants and all to kill like diseases, because once a bee or an insect lands on it, that means it could possibly die. So when you put this in here, okay, you give the roots a little tiddle to kind of loosen them up a bit. So what we have to do now is we have to give it a good, what we have to do now, this is seaweed feed now. I didn't get a chance to make it, so I just had to buy some in. So that'll go right down there and give it a good water. And then, so does everybody want to just take the shovel and put a little bit of soil in if we get in a little queue? Is that okay? Yeah.
There.
So we just go.
Behind there.
I'll just get these stones into the bottom there. So we just put we don't need to put a big shovel, we just put like a little bit in each so everybody has a turn, yeah? Well done.
Brand new, yeah?
Yes, just for you.
Bit by bit. Oh yeah.
I just want to try and get some of the stones into the bottom there. Yeah, I just don't want them on top. He must have took me right, Gray. I had a right there. I had a right there. It must be in took. Okay, so these are our beehives. So we have 5 here. So they're waiting for stands for these ones, but you can see the honeybees are quite active. There's a huge amount of pollen on the ground and nectar and stuff with the flowers, and our poppies over here, they were just swarmed with bees, and we have etium as well that the bees love. So as you can see, they're very busy hives and they're very busy working. For us, the importance of bees are, we need bees for our environment. We need bees in the world, or we need bees everywhere. We need bees to make honey. The honey from a hive is absolutely fantastic. It's like, what would you say? It's like just pure creamery. The difference than the one that you buy in the shop. And Yeah, I mean, bees are very important for pollinating, to make food, for pollinating different things, fruits and flowers, and they're just an amazing animal. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have your challenges, you know, and then, you know, the winter is tough here when it's really cold and you're down your hands and knees and wet and trying to plant in spring bulbs and trying to separate other bulbs. So it's like everything, but I still come in every day. I don't wake up and dread. I've never woke up and said, oh, I don't want to go in here, ever. Do you know, it's just something, yeah, get out there, and it kind of like the first hour here just gives you a boost for the day, and you're just... And, you know, it's great with the priests and all, because it's just, you know, the little bit of banter that goes on. It's lovely. I just felt that I had a passion for it. I mean, I always kind of struggled. I don't know what to do. I don't know what I want to be. And I was in my 30s and I was like, yeah, this is meant for me. Now, it is tough work. It is, you know, it's hard work. A lot of people wouldn't be into it. But I just find it's for me.